Hello, everyone. It's Josh Vision, and I'm here to give you my first episode one review of Nightfall. This is a really good series, actually, you guys. I remember, watching at first. First off, we start off in the city of Acre, and that's the last stronghold of the Knights Templar. So, if anyone knows about the history of the Crusades, the first Crusade happened around 1095. I believe 3 years later, the Christians were able to take over Jerusalem and took control of the Holy Land. So I think probably around 1187, thanks to the great Muslim commander Sultan, the great Muslim commander Saladin, the Muslims were basically able to take back Jerusalem, and the Knights Templar was only able to maintain certain amount of, you know, power over there. It was mainly controlled by the Muslims. So basically, the episodes take place 1291, and we see the Templars. I think there's a siege. Like it's been a 43-day siege over there, and Laundry, who's the main character of this show, and his brothers, the Knights Templar, they meet with one of the commanders, if not the main commander, of the Muslim army. And the Muslim army guy tells them basically that the Sultan gives you two options: either one, surrender, give us the Holy Grail, or die. And one of the guys is like, listen, the whole city of Acre is basically under our protection. The Jews, Christians, and a great deal of people. So let's not try to make a war out of it. Let's try to give them safe passage, but the guy wasn't having it. So he said, once again, surrender or die, give us the Grail. And Landry gets in his face, is like, we choose to die. We'll see you on the battlefield. So after that, we get this really epic and great shot of just the sheer might of that Muslim army. Every little group, the siege towers were incredible. Siege engines, they're throwing like 500 pounds worth of rocks and all this crap and fire right at the city. It was just like really incredible visual. It was kind of like a combination of Game of Thrones, Da Vinci's Demons, and a little bit of the Kingdom of Heaven, which basically was like a Knights Templar movie that came out in 2005. But yeah, so we had this really powerful scene with Landry and his fellow Knights Templar. And one of the guys said, listen, we fight for God, because of God, and kill, but not kill more than you have to. So we see everyone, they're in a battle, and then we see them go toe-to-toe with the Muslims. And they have these really large, steel head, obviously. So every time you see them go to battle, it's like you're literally like in real time. You're seeing every expression. You're seeing their fear, seeing their excitement. You're seeing the gore and all that crap. Just straight up epic. But at some point, one of the leading knights of the Templar tells Landry that they have to go get the Grail and make a retreat and try to get as much people as they can with them, because the Muslims have too much manpower and siege weapons on their side. So they go get the Holy Grail, and they put in this big chest, and they put him on the boats. And as they're about to sail off, Landry notices that a father and his daughter are kind of trapped. So he tells them to go on the boat and go, don't wait for him. And he goes, saves the father and the daughter. So some of his men are like, what, screw that. We're gonna go help Landry. So they go help Landry, and they're fighting off, the other Muslims. And at one point, one of the guys gets shot in the knee, and Landry saves him from getting his head cut off. So Landry is able to get on the boat with his fellow brethren. And there's two boats, by the way. One boat has the Holy Grail, and the second boat's carrying Landry and what's left of, the knights. So they're on the boat, and they're all happy at least that they still have the Grail. But not long after that, one of the siege weapons just completely destroys the ship that has the Holy Grail, and everyone is just like Jesus, why did this happen? After that, the episode takes place 16 years later. well, 15 years later, about 1306 in Paris. And we see Landry's on his horse, and we get a really good understanding of how truly anti-Semitic, you know, those times were. We have some guy who's clearly Christian, you know, in the town talking crap about Jews, saying that you can't trust Jews, they'll kill your children, and by doing that, or something along the lines of they'll crucify them, they'll crucify you, and all that stuff. So Landry is just looking at it, like, just shaking his head. He drops his horse off in front of this building, which is pretty much the Knights Templar temple. He's about to go in. He sees this beautiful woman. It's obvious that they have something or did something. Maybe a little bit of both. But his brother, whose name I'm blanking on right now, I'll remember for the next review, he says, come along, you know what I mean? And Landry's like, listen, I can look as long as I'm not touching. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever. You know, it's kind of hard to look without trying to touch. So they go in, and pretty much Knights talk about the daily stuff. Landry's not really having it. He says, you know, we're warriors, you know. He said there's monks that can take care of the poor and all that stuff. He's like, what are we doing for, you know, the Jews? Who's protecting the Jews? You know, I believe he also mentioned the fact that, or one of the members, I believe one of the other guys mentioned that the King of France, King Philip, owes the Knights mad money. You know, still hasn't paid them yet for it, which is very interesting. After the meeting, Landry speaks with his Master Godfrey, and he says like that this is wrong. He's tired of doing this mundane type of stuff. Like, once again, reiterating the fact that they're warriors. They should go back to Jerusalem. As of right now, the Turks and the Muslims are fighting amongst themselves, and the Mongols are attacking them from the east. So it's the best time to try to take back Jerusalem as of right now, reclaim the Holy Land, and, you know, and all that stuff. And Godfrey is like, it's not the right time. And then Godfrey notices, I believe, an orange on the cloister somewhere while talking with Landry. So he says, I'll see you later. We'll talk about this, whatever. So he leaves off on his horse. Landry speaks to his brother later, saying that he's kind of worried, you know, for the master. You know, he's worried because it seems as though something's on his mind. After that, we see Godfrey. He's made his way, and then he's caught by these bandits, I believe, or something, and they're chasing him. So he's basically going, you know, balls to the wall, trying to get away from them, and still trying to maintain where the hell he's going. So while this is happening, we get a scene of this kid named Percival and his wife on a little farm, and they're talking about what they should name their children, their daughters, sons, all that crap. So Percival notices that these men are starting to attack Godfrey, and Godfrey's doing a hell of a job, actually. I think he took at least 3 or 4 like that, but he gets a really severe wound with the sword strike at one of them, and Percival decides to go down there and save him, and he's able to hold the other guy off long enough for Godfrey to kill, you know, the other guy. The only one that got away was the leader, I believe. So Godfrey asks what the kid's name is. Says his name is Percival. Godfrey dies. Before he dies, he tells the kid to return his sword to Landry and to go to Paris. And he says, why he choosing me? He said, because you're the only one here, and Landry will know what to do. So Godfrey dies, and Percival goes to Paris. He gives the sword to Landry, and Landry's like, thank you, boy, for giving me the sword. And he asks where Godfrey's body is. And Percival says, it's over in on my farm. I'm sure my wife and her father gave it a proper burial. And Landry's like, no, we gotta bring the body back to Paris and give it a really honorary, you know, knight's burial, you know, here, which he deserves. So Percival and the other one of the knights, they go back to where Percival used to live. I mean, where Percival lives, to retrieve the body and bring it back to Paris. So Landry's brother asks him, so what do you think he meant when he said you would know what to do with it? And Landry's like, I honestly don't know. After that, we find out that Landry is actually having an affair with King Philip's wife, sleeping with her. And what's very interesting about this is the fact that him and Philip are actually really close friends, and that Landry taught Philip how to fight. Another thing that's very interesting is how it seemed as though King Philip's trusty guy, whatever, he tells him that they should just disband the Knights Templar because there's really no use to them. Honestly, they're supposed to be warriors, but they're not warriors. You know, they owe them lots of money, and the best way to sort of get rid of that is to sort of take them out. But Philip's like, no, I'm not doing that. Landry's my friend. They haven't given me any reason to do so. So hold your tongue. Another thing that's very interesting is the fact that the Jewish people that was living in Paris were essentially kicked out of the city. Like that. And it's interesting because I probably missed a few things, but it seems as though that trustee guy, that advisor or something, it seemed like he's probably Jewish, in my opinion, because just the way he just sort of looked at them while they were just getting kicked out the city, you know, again, like excrement and rocks and rotten tomatoes thrown at them and all that stuff. So after that, we basically see two interesting characters. We see a father and his daughter. They're talking, and she was like, "I don't want protection. You know, I want to follow my own path." And her dad's like, "Listen, I'm your father. That's my job." So they are about to get attacked by some bandits, and the Knights Templar are right there with Landry leading the charge. And we have this epic battle between those bandits and the Knights Templar, a really bloody, gory, and quite honestly, a hell of an exciting fight. At one point, the girl saves, I believe, Landry's brother, and his brother returns it in kind after she stabs a guy with one of the wooden spears. One of the guys try to slice her head off. Landry's brother spears him down, stabs him in the throat. So after the fight, it's discovered that Landry actually saved that father and daughter exactly 15 years ago back in the town of Acre. And he could already tell who they were. He just didn't want to say much about it. So after that, we had this really interesting scene in which I forgot what the guy was, but he seemed like to be an assistant of the Templars. He discovers what was in the hilt of Godfrey's sword, and it turned out to be some type of sign, some type of thing, whatever, that had the image of the Holy Grail, which he ends up showing both Landry and his brother. So essentially, it shows that the Holy Grail is still around and it's in Paris. They just got to go find it. So that's how the episode essentially ends, you guys. Thank you guys for watching my review. I know it's my first episode review of the show. I'm going to get better as the season goes on. Thank you guys for enduring. Adios. Peace.